what it is like when you see that person you love starting to change and be changed and unable to pull them away from it. And I think that's a hugely powerful relationship in the show between those two.
I just spoke with Kazar and I love her. Also, I have been, like I read the Liaisons Dangereux in like high school, and I've watched every version that has come across my life. So I was really excited when I heard that they were doing this kind of like prequel version. What was it that drew you to this aspect of the story and to kind of telling an origin for Valmont and Camille?
Colin is an incredible figure in this industry, and he reached out to say, would I look at Dangerous Liaisons for television? And I was thinking, as you just point out, there's so many adaptations, and it feels like there would have to be something very new to say to sustain in TV. But I thought, if Colin is excited, I want to try and find this thing. And I, again, had read that novel a long time ago and loved it. I'd loved the movie. But as a feminist, I think it was going to take some work. I mean, we had very much, it was a story sort of, through men. And I think for me, it was like, how does this become a kind of, feminist tale? So it was rereading the novel and finding this extraordinary letter 81, which is from the Marquise de Merteuil. And it really talks about her as a construct and a kind of a creation to navigate and survive in this world. And my interpretation of that was, wow, this woman doesn't feel like she's part of that world. It feels like she struggles with it and doesn't share its values. She's never named in the novel. She only has her title. And I thought, I really want to know who she is and who she was. And that was our starting point, because we thought if we explore this as a prelude, we can get to that place of corruption and amorality of those two characters as we meet them in the novel, but we can really understand why and how and go on that journey with them. And we both felt very excited by that as our way in.
Since it was, to a degree, your brainchild, Colin, what spoke to you and said, now is the time, I must do Dangerous Liaisons?
Well, one always asks oneself, what is it about something like Dangerous Liaison that was written 300 years ago that still seems to speak to a modern audience? And it was exploring that at the center, that idea. It is in one simplistic sense, a love story, albeit a rather cracked love story. And it's also the story of a woman, as Harriet so eloquently said, navigating a man's world. Now, those are issues that certainly is as relevant today as it was back in the second half of the 18th century. So it was that as a starting point. And then through conversation with Harriet, finding a way to tell a story about a young woman embarking, navigating the world and trying to get through the day with dignity, with sometimes successfully, sometimes not. And that's something that everyone can relate to.
Going back in time and getting to pull from different pieces of the canon allows a character like Victoire to become much more important. She's someone that doesn't even necessarily make it into other adaptations. So what was it about her and that relationship with the Marquise before she becomes one?
It's lovely that you spot that, because I think the only person actually to see that, and I agree. Going through the work, you have Victoire, you have Aslan, and they're real kind of co-conspirators, I think, of Valmont and the Marquise. And I really wanted characters in this season that in a way represent the innocence of those two, the kind of the sort of moral center, and through them, particularly through Victoire, we see the corruption of the world, because we see it in their relationships, in Victoire with Camille, in Aslan with Valmont. But I wanted first of all to have a relationship that was really kind of pure in that sense for Camille, like the one person that she really doesn't want to let down or betray. And I wanted from Victoire the sense of her gaze on the world, that she realizes what is happening to Camille, and that sense of all these characters kind of starting to move closer to the center of power, and that's definitely a theme through this season and hopefully beyond. But what it is like when you see that person you love starting to change and be changed and unable to pull them away from it. And I think that's a hugely powerful relationship in the show between those two.
Without giving away any spoilers, Victoire's journey over the course of the series is quite wonderful. Actually, I think surprising and challenging. And, Harriet has given that character full agency in a really, as you get towards the end, as I say, I don't want to give it away, is really very moving.
I'm very excited for that. I think I'm halfway through now, so I cannot wait for the rest. Speaking of, is this something that is going to go into season 2 and beyond, hopefully, or do you see the season as a whole story?
This has a cliffhanger at the end of episode 8, which is as good a cliffhanger as you could possibly wish. So just keep battering STARZ and get them to say yes to a second season.
Yeah.
Well, then I cannot wait for that. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Lovely to see you again.
Bye-bye.